This Red Sox pitching injury led to a roster move and a really interesting decision coming up for Boston. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin, and thank you very much for clicking on this video. Yeah, the Boston Red Sox just lost a series to the Chicago White Sox, which for some reason the Red Sox have an incredibly hard time beating, despite the White Sox having one of the worst records in baseball history over the last year and a half-ish here. The Red Sox are still somehow 5-5 against them. I don't know what happens when they play Chicago. It's like they totally forget how to play baseball. Despite the win yesterday, my opinion on this series has not changed. If you want that opinion, that video is going to be in the description of this video as well as right there on my channel. It's just the last video we put out. So if you want that, there's the place to go get it. In today's video, though, we're going to be breaking down the latest Red Sox injury, the roster move that occurred with it, and one interesting decision that could end up happening because of said injury. I did want to touch on one thing from this series that we did not get to talk about yesterday, and that is Garrett Crochet. We have to talk about Crochet because this dude was absolutely dominant yesterday. He brought a no-hitter into the 8th inning, ended up going 7 1/3 innings where he struck out 11 batters. That's a career high in strikeouts for him, by the way. He only walked one guy, which to me is absolutely fantastic, right? Last outing, control was a bit of an issue. It appeared as though it had a whole lot to do with the cold weather, which we all kind of assumed. He was right back to pounding the strike zone in this start. That walk came in, I believe, the 5th inning, so he kind of brought a perfect game into the 5th inning, which is absolutely fantastic as well, right? That's just ridiculous. And I get it's the Chicago White Sox and their team, not very good offensively, but this is also a Red Sox team that gave up 11 runs to these guys 2 days ago. So it's still, to me, a really, really impressive feat from Garrett Crochet. This is why you bring in a guy like this, right? This sort of stopper. The guy who comes in, Red Sox aren't doing super well. They need to get their momentum back. They need to pick themselves up. Who do we go to? We go to Garrett Crochet. He's done that twice now in this season. I have a feeling he's going to be doing it a whole lot over the next 5 or 6 years. He's also kind of exactly what we expected, currently 8th in all of Major League Baseball in ERA. He looks great on the mound. That's all I'm going to say. Trevor Story put the entire team on his back offensively yesterday, quite literally, right? He was the only reason the Red Sox were able to win that game offensively for the Boston Red Sox because he drove in every single one of the Red Sox runs, the first two with a double that probably could have been a home run had the wind not been blowing in Chicago. If the wind wasn't there, that ball, in my opinion, was way gone. Then he obviously hits one out through the wind in the last inning to really sort of cement home a really great game for Trevor Story. And quietly, while everyone's sitting there criticizing him, kind of turned his season around in a really big way. He's currently hitting .308 with a .328 on base percentage and a .477 slug for a 126 OPS plus. Right now, he's currently hitting 26% better than the average hitter in Major League Baseball. He's also tied for the most stolen bases in the AL, which you kind of love to see. This is what we're talking about, right? With Trevor Story being fully healthy, he can totally change games in a whole lot of different ways, whether it's on the base pass, whether it's defensively, or whether it's at the plate, and we're finally getting a glimpse of what that actually looks like. The hope now is that we finally get a full season of this, right? If he could stay healthy through the entire season, this is what we're talking about in terms of how Trevor Story can impact this team. As we sit here and criticize him, he's kind of doing exactly what we need him to do. Okay, now after I've gotten those two out of the way, we could get to the main topic of today's video, which was the injury that took place this weekend. Now, I assume most of you know exactly who and what I'm talking about because in his start over the weekend, Richard Fitts was taken out after he was kind of dominating the Chicago White Sox. It was the 5th or 6th inning. I can't remember which one. I believe it was the 5th inning where after a pitch, he immediately called the trainers out. He said, "Hey, come here. I'm not feeling great." Grabbing at his pectoral muscle. Originally, it was labeled as a shoulder injury for Fitts, but yesterday it was clarified to be a right pectoral strain for the starter. Honestly, there's no best case scenario when it comes to an injury for a pitcher, but in terms of whether or not it was the shoulder or the pec, I think the pec is the better of the two in terms of case scenarios, right? Shoulders can be really tricky to figure out, especially for a starter in Major League Baseball. It usually takes a pretty long period of time if you have a shoulder injury to get yourself back onto the field. So the fact that this is pectoral is a little bit of a good silver lining here in this injury. Now, We don't know to what extent the injury actually is yet. We do know it's a pectoral strain, so he's probably going to miss at least a couple of weeks of baseball here as he tries to get himself right. Now, if it's a mild strain, it could just be those couple of weeks, right? Just a week off of rest, get back on the mound a little bit, build yourself back up, and then get back into games. If it's a little bit more severe, well, then that's probably going to take a little bit more time, obviously, right? But we don't know the severity of it just yet. We do know when we're probably going to get that news, which is most likely either later on today or earlier tomorrow, as he's going in for an MRI to really sort of solidify this diagnosis. And we should get some information then. If it's anything super major, we'll obviously make another video about it. If it is just sort of a mild pectoral strain, well, then we'll probably just hold off the video because, again, it'd probably only be about 15-20 days that he's on the IL. Well, that is remain to be seen, but it kind of sucks to lose Richard Fitts. This was a guy who, wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire in terms of every single start he was making, but he was really consistent for this Red Sox team. Every single start he'd had so far this season had been a quality start. 6 innings, 3 earned runs. That is, not the greatest statistics in the world. I believe that ends up being a 4.50 even ERA, but at the same time, too, it kept the Red Sox in baseball games. It lengthened this rotation. It gave you stability in the rotation, which outside of Crochet, you don't really have right now. Between Houck, Buehler, and Newcomb, Houck and Buehler had great starts last time out, but they've been a bit rocky to start the season. You never know what you're going to get with Newcomb. It was really important to have a guy in here that you kind of could rely on and say, look, today we just got to score 4 runs and we're going to win this baseball game. So to lose him absolutely sucks. It now just sort of depends on how long he's going to be out for. And my other question with Fitz is, where is he going to go when he gets back? If he's back after Giolito and Bale get back to this team, which is most likely at this point, where are they going to put him? Are they going to bring in a 6-man rotation to get him reps in Major League Baseball? Are they going to start him in AAA baseball? That is also another question that's going to be answered as he gets healthier. Now, obviously, because of said injury, he is currently on the IL. He was officially placed on the 15-day IL. Hopefully, he remains solely on the 15-day IL. We'll sort of see how his rehabilitation goes. But in order to fill his spot on the 26-man roster, the Red Sox did call up Michael Fulmer. Now, I said this was a tiny bit surprising, and it's not because Michael Fulmer doesn't deserve to be in Major League Baseball. He looked pretty good in AAA in his first couple of appearances. It was a 3.09 ERA with a pretty similar 3.33 FIP. It was in 3 games, 2 of them being starts. He struck out 13.9-ish batters per 9 inning, and he walked about 4.63. So a pretty decent amount of swing and miss, which is absolutely fantastic. A little bit of walk issues there too, but it's nothing super crazy. I'm not incredibly worried about it. The velocity is a little bit concerning to me. His velocity hasn't ticked up since getting down to AAA, which was the original hope. It's still sitting around 93 miles an hour. The original hope was that, hey, he could probably get to 95, 96. That has yet to be seen. Hopefully with this call-up, the adrenaline of being in Major League Baseball, we see that velocity tick up a bit. But for right now, in my opinion, that's probably the biggest concern with Michael Fulmer. So if it's not the statistics, why are we a little bit surprised that Michael Fulmer got called up? Well, it's because he'd been starting in AAA or going really deep in his appearances in AAA. Each of them were about 4 innings worth of work, and his most recent one came on April 10th. So that realistically means he probably wouldn't be able to throw for the Red Sox for a couple of days, at least until the 15th, right? You want to make sure that this guy stays healthy, especially coming back from his elbow surgery this season. You want to ensure that that guy doesn't blow anything out. So you probably can't use him in games for at least a couple of days, which does make this roster move a little bit surprising, right? If you're going to call somebody up to hope to most likely take a position in the bullpen, you probably want that guy being able to get into games as soon as humanly possible, which leads to a really interesting conversation for this Red Sox team. Well, actually, it's kind of a couple of different conversations. The first one is, I have a funny feeling that this could end up spelling the end of Josh Winkowski on the Boston Red Sox. I think Michael Fulmer absolutely deserves to be in Major League Baseball. I think he's done enough to prove that he should be in Major League Baseball. I don't think that this is sort of a short-term, hey, we're going to keep you up here until a better option comes up type call-up for the Red Sox, right? Because at this point, Michael Fulmer, to get him back down to minor league baseball, would most likely cause a DFA, and the Red Sox probably don't want to lose him on the waiver wire. To me, that indicates that once Bayo comes back, which is going to be the next person off the IL, Josh Winkowski is probably your option there. So I think that's a really interesting conversation, right? When Bello comes back, is Michael Fulmer going to end up being a stopgap, or is he more of a longer-term solution for the Red Sox in terms of trying to shuffle up things a little bit for this bullpen? My opinion, it's absolutely the second one of those. But the other conversation that needs to be had with this Michael Fulmer thing is, what do they do when Richard Fitts was supposed to start again? Because Richard Fitts' next scheduled start is on the Friday the 18th against the White Sox at home. The Red Sox now have a couple of options here. The first one, which is something that Alex Cora hinted at when Richard Fitts originally went down, is the idea of a bullpen game. If you bring up Michael Fulmer and ensure that he's ready to go to start that bullpen game, he could potentially give you 4 innings like he's been doing in AAA, and that would lengthen your bullpen game a little bit, right? It wouldn't be Brandon Bernardino like last year where he'd go 2 innings and then it was a straight bullpen game. At least you'd get 4 innings out of Michael Fulmer and then head into your bullpen. The other option here is, in my opinion, much more interesting. Brayan Bello, before the Richard Fitts start, was scheduled to make one more start before coming back to the Boston Red Sox. He had made his most recent start this week in AAA, where he threw 65 pitches. Alex Cora says, we really want to get this guy up to 85 pitches in his next start before he rejoins the Boston Red Sox. But at the same time, too, you're going to be facing the Chicago White Sox, right, at home at Fenway Park. I wonder if the Red Sox sit there and say, hey, wait a second here, why don't we just get Bello 80, 85 pitches in Major League Baseball and then sort of let him loose after that in order to sort of prevent some of these bullpen games, right? Because ultimately, you could potentially do that. Give Brayan Bello 80 pitches in that start. It would still be a modified-ish bullpen game, but 80, 85 pitches for Bello would hopefully be about 5 innings worth of work, so you wouldn't have to decimate your bullpen in that game. To me, this makes a whole lot more sense, right? Even if you have Brayan Bello and then Michael Fulmer piggybacking off of Brayan Bello, so Bello goes 4 innings, Michael Fulmer gives you 3, and then you can get into the high leverage positions in your bullpen. To me, that avoids the possibility of a true bullpen game, and I absolutely love that possibility. Now, the Red Sox may be sitting there and they may be pretty cautious about bringing Brayan Bello back up too early, right? You just lost Richard Fitts. You've already lost Giolito, who's not too far behind Bello, but your depth in terms of rotational starters is getting a little bit thin. Hunter Dobbins is literally kind of the last man standing here until you get into some really interesting options for the Red Sox rotation going forward. So they could be sitting there saying, we don't want to push anything, right? Heaven forbid Brayan Bello re-injures himself trying to pitch at the major league level as opposed to really ramping himself back up in minor league baseball. So I think there's some pros and cons with the idea of Brayan Bello coming back up early to take over this spot in the Red Sox rotation. But ultimately, I think that especially depending on the opponent, I know you just lost 2 out of 3 games to the Chicago White Sox, but pitching-wise, it's not like you're going to be throwing to the most elite talent in Major League Baseball. I don't know. The situation, in my opinion, makes a lot of sense. So if I'm the Red Sox, I think I bring Brayan Bello back early, but it does lead to an interesting conversation, and we probably won't get any information about this until we get really close to Friday, if not on Friday itself. So we'll definitely talk about it then if Brayan Bello comes back up. Either way, I absolutely hate the idea that Richard Fitts is going to miss some time. I think he's an absolutely fantastic addition to this rotation. I think he's an absolutely fantastic dude, and I honestly hope really badly that he's out for as little as humanly possible and is back on the mound as soon as humanly possible. But it is nice to see Michael Fulmer get his official shot with the Boston Red Sox. I'm kind of excited to see what he could look like for the Red Sox. The Red Sox obviously were really high on him when they signed him, so this is kind of his chance to prove to them as to why. Again, I just don't really know what role that's going to be in. Is it to take over the Josh Winkowski role eventually? Is it to be that sort of spot-ish starter that's going to give you 3 or 4 innings and then go into a regular bullpen game? Is it to piggyback off of Brayan Bello? A lot of options here, and we're going to absolutely see how this plays out. So let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think? What do you think of Crochet and Trevor Story recently? What do you think about this move from the Red Sox? And what do you think about the injury itself? Let me know all your thoughts on everything we covered in this video in the comments down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton. It's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you guys want to listen instead of watch these episodes, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.